So, as many of you know, I've been journaling for years, but for the past few months, I created my own daily journaling practice. The method is in here, A Season of Life, daily journaling practice for emotional wellness, very literal name. You can find a link in the description box if you're interested in following my journal method, but of course, you can use whatever journaling method works best for you. So when I published this journal, and in the weeks leading up to it, when I was troubleshooting the method in here, I went from journaling on an as-needed basis, which was usually about a couple times a week, to journaling every single morning. In my opinion, there are two umbrellas of journaling. There's journaling that's more preventative, more focused on the positive psychology side of things, where you're trying to augment the good things in your life to focus your attention on those. And then there's journaling that's more on an as-needed basis, either to prepare for unpleasant events or difficult things, or to debrief those things, or do more emotional processing. And I think both are really necessary, but the one I'm talking about in this video specifically is the former, the one where we're really every single day focusing on the things we want more of in life rather than less. So here's what happened when I took my own advice and used my own journal for 90 days, 3 whole months, a season of my life. So the way that the journal is structured, the introductory pages are all about getting clear on your goals, on your values. That was really helpful for me, was to just gain clarity on my goals, not in the super far off future, but just for this season of my life, for the next 3 months. What were the things I wanted to accomplish? I was in a very professionally limbo state. I was getting ready to finish grad school, finish my job at my internship, and start my own practice. And being able to break it down into baby steps helped me see that there is an achievable way to do this. It just has to follow A, B, C, D, E, F. You get the point. And it was so satisfying when I got a chance to go back to those initial goals to see that I had achieved the vast majority of them. And the ones that I didn't achieve, it just wasn't the right timing, or maybe they were too ambitious. Sometimes things happen in life where things aren't going to be exactly the way that you expect them to be, but the things that were within my control, I made sure I did, and it felt really great looking back on that when I realized I accomplished the vast majority of everything I set out to do. I think it's this day-to-day practice, this incremental success that creates long-term success. If you can do tiny little things every day that get you closer to your goals, eventually you're going to end up at your goals. I was also really surprised in the introductory pages how much my values have changed from the last time I reflected on them. The last time I reflected on them was a couple years ago, I want to say. They really looked very different from how they looked when I reflected on it in this page. I think that's part of the reason why, if you're buying a copy of this every season of your life, you're still reflecting on your values. They're not staying static, because I think your values depend a lot on your context and your self-development. What was important to you, really, really important to you a couple years ago, might not be as important to you today. I think that's something that in therapies like ACT, which is one that I really draw from, we kind of have this pitfall of assuming that core values are completely static. They're there to stay. They don't really change across a person's lifetime. I just don't think that's the case. And true, I'm a person that changes a lot. I push myself a lot to change in different directions. I like to change. I know some people don't feel that way, but it really does depend a lot on context. So to give you an example, when I'm about to record a video that day, or I'm about to see a therapy client or meet with my supervisor, on those days, it's particularly important for me to be insightful and eloquent. It gets me closer to my goals. So insight and eloquence, which I see as kind of 2 peas in a pod, at least in my head, on those days are usually the values that I choose to focus on. And I notice that on the days when I actively turn my attention towards those values, I say, today I'm going to focus on being insightful and eloquent. I'm way more insightful and eloquent than on the days where it's not a value for me, where I don't start out my day saying, this is what I'm going to focus on today. So I think that not only are values very fluid and context dependent, I also think that focusing on specific values based on the context is really important to getting you closer to your goals. So those were my reflections on the introductory pages. But once we got into the bulk of the pages, which was 90 days of just everyday same prompts, one thing that I noticed off the bat was I really love to start my day. So I do my journaling first thing in the morning while I'm drinking my coffee, looking at the trees outside. It became very ritualized, and it was something that I looked forward to a lot. And I've heard this from some of you guys as well, saying ever since I bought this journal, I really look forward to journaling in it in the morning. And I'm so happy to hear that, because there should be something that makes you really happy to get out of bed first thing in the morning, that you look forward to, that excites you. If that's journaling, then even win-win, because journaling is super good for your mental health. Something else that I noticed was just an overall increase in pleasant emotions. Emotions like joy, gratitude, connectedness, wonder at the beauty of the world, self-compassion, compassion for others. And that's really because of the nature of the prompts. They really do challenge you to focus on those things. And like I always say, where attention flows, energy goes. If you focus your attention on the positives in your life every single day, eventually you're going to have a more positive outlook. And I think that's part of the reason why focusing solely on symptom reduction can sometimes backfire. Because if you're focusing on, I want to get rid of my anxiety, I want to get rid of my depression in therapy, or, even in your journaling practice, you're still focused on that thing you're trying to get rid of. You risk bringing even more attention to it and kind of dismissing all the great stuff happening in your life. But I notice such an abundance of gratitude when I practice, especially the gratitude piece of the daily journaling. I started to notice really small things that people were doing for me and just augmenting them. Like this one time, this person on the plane next to me offered me a piece of candy. He didn't really speak the same language as me. It was just a nice gesture, and I kept thinking about it because I was thinking, I'm going to journal about this tonight when I get home. This is going to be my kind thing that someone else did for me today. Or another time, my husband and I were supposed to go get a rental car, and they gave away our rental car there, but the Uber driver saw that we were going into kind of like a shady neighborhood, and he waited for us there. He said, I'm going to wait to make sure that you get your car. And when it happened that we didn't get our car, he drove us a couple blocks down for free to go to a different car rental place. It's things like that that I'm so much more attentive to. I'm so much more attuned to all the different things that are going well in life, that people are gifting me, the kindness in the world. And I'm a person that struggles sometimes with feeling like people are overall good, because I think there is so much badness out there in the world. There really, really is. So being able to focus on the good part of that balances me out a little bit. I'm not saying that I completely deny bad people, bad things happen out there. Of course not. I don't think that would be realistic, but it helps me balance out. And I got really, really good at mentioning all the things I'm grateful for. A lot of mornings, they were just pouring out of me. I had such an abundance of gratitude. I also noticed a lot more self-compassion, a lot more attentiveness to my strengths, the things I'm doing right, the things that I'm proud of. And while there was an increase in pleasant emotions, there was also a decrease in painful emotions. And again, it wasn't a direct route, because this type of journaling doesn't focus so much on the painful emotions. It was in a more indirect way, where if you're focusing on the pleasant stuff, you just don't have as much capacity to focus on all the negative stuff. One of my goals at the beginning of these 90 days was to go 45 days without an anxiety attack. And I actually lost track, but I'm way over 45 days now. I think I'm a couple weeks past it. Absolutely unheard of. If you had told me at the beginning of starting this journal, at some point you're going to stop having anxiety attacks, I wouldn't have believed you. I'm not saying it's completely caused by that, but I sure think it helped. And not only did I notice more what kind things other people were doing for me, I myself started to be more intentional about doing kind things for others. Now, I think that I'm generally a kind person, but there's always room for growth. And if there's ever a day when I can't think of something kind that I did for another person, it's a sign to me that either I'm not interacting with enough people, or I could just be doing a little bit more. These can be really small things. It could be something like when you're driving, letting someone that's trying to pass into your lane pass in front of you. Like sometimes that will literally happen to me, where someone's trying to pass in front of me, maybe we're stuck in traffic, and I think, why not? This is going to go in my journal tomorrow. Why not do this kind thing for someone that doesn't cost me anything? Maybe cost me like a split second. It allows you to see this back and forth between gratitude and abundance. I've spoken about gratitude before, but the more you feel like you're receiving from others, the more you feel like you want to give back. And also, I think the more you give to other people, the more you're going to receive back. The people that are very harsh about not being kind or generous with other people, they're not usually the ones that are receiving a whole lot in return, because other people can tell. They can tell that you're being greedy with your energy, that you're very focused on take, me. They're not going to be very motivated to give back to someone like that. Why would they? Why would anyone? In the beginning of starting this journal, I noticed that on the days when I forgot to journal or I couldn't journal because I was out of town, my mood was significantly lower. The longer I did this journal for, there was a cumulative effect where I could go for longer without journaling and still preserve those benefits. So like week 1, week 2, if I went a day without journaling, it really did affect me. But near like day 80, I could definitely go a couple days without journaling and still have that mindset of these are the things I'm going to focus on. These are the things I'm grateful for. It became an ingrained cognitive habit in my head. Something else that I noticed was every day there's a prompt about what was your mood this day. And I've always thought that I'm a person that's pretty in touch with her own feelings and emotions and moods. But I noticed that sometimes I do struggle to think about what was my mood the whole day. And I realized that a lot of the times my mood was really just my energy level. It was just, I felt motivated today. I had a lot of energy. I was very focused. I got a lot of errands done. That's not a mood. That's not an emotional state. And I still have a lot of work to do to uncover what my mood is underneath what I have on my to-do list that day. But I at least started to notice that what distinguished between happy and relaxed was simply my workload. If I had a day where I was in a really good mood and I had almost nothing to do, I was pretty relaxed. If I had a lot to do, even if I was in a good mood, then I was more happy. I was more upbeat. Both had sort of a similar undercurrent of pleasantness. It just depended on the context, really. That was something that I realized as a result of checking in with myself every day. Hey, what are my feelings today? I also realized that when I'm reflecting on my goals for the day, I could go a little less hard with that. I'm a person that has a checklist that's like 20 bullet points long every day, and realizing that I only have 5 bullet points on every page made me think, Anna, like 5 is more than enough. It's okay even if you don't have 5 every day. Don't push yourself past that. I think I've gotten a little bit better at, ironically, having less on my to-do list, but I think that this workbook would also help someone who struggles with not doing enough throughout their day. If they do see those 5 bullet points and they write, okay, I have this to do today, and then it kind of pushes them to actually accomplish those things. As for the daily lessons prompt, some were big, some were small. Like it could be how to format a manuscript for my novel or a realization that I had in therapy. But having a place to write these lessons down every day really cemented them for me. I'm a person who, it doesn't matter how many times you say something out loud, I need to see it in writing. I need to be the one to write it for it to become real. I'm like that with to-do lists, I'm like that with therapy insights, and I'm like that with reflecting on what lessons I learned that day. I need to write it down to actually implement it. That was for the bulk of the 90 days where I did this daily journaling practice. And then at the end pages, there are also some pages for reflection on this whole past season of your life. One thing that I reflected on in the end pages was I noticed how different situations and contexts in my life were affecting me, which helped me make decisions that improved my well-being. So I noticed that I'm much more successful at aligning with my values or completing my to-do list if I don't have too much on my plate and if I'm not overwhelmed. If I have a ton to do that day, of course, I'm not going to be able to focus on my core values because I have just too much. I don't have the mental capacity. I don't have the energy for it. I also noticed a pattern where I wasn't having as many moments of connection or beauty or joy on the days when I was just kind of holed up at home. And I realized that those moments, they really are very interpersonal. They're very relational. It's important to go out, do things, interact with people, even if it is on a superficial level, because otherwise you're just not going to have that much joy. Even if it's something as simple as going to Trader Joe's. That gives you an opportunity to be kind to another person. It gives the other person an opportunity to be kind to you. It gives you an opportunity to have a moment of joy when you see that their new pumpkin pancakes are out, or to see the beauty in walking back to your car, seeing the foliage outside. I also noticed patterns in moments of connection. I noticed these are moments where I feel the most connected. So things like cuddling with cats, Those were frequent moments of connection I had. Laughing with loved ones, being emotionally vulnerable with other people. I also noticed patterns in things that consistently brought me joy. Things like gloomy weather, rain, certain foods, cups of coffee were in there quite a lot. Coffee makes me really happy. Hiking, travel outings, finding out good news. All of these things brought me a lot of joy. And being able to recognize that helped me better understand who I am as a person and helped me make plans to do more of those things in the next season. When you can pinpoint those moments of joy, it's truly one of the most incredible things. I think anyone can be happy. Happiness to me feels more like based on external stimuli, based on things that are happening outside of your control. But I think it's a decision to turn that happiness into pure joy. It's a form of alchemy. It's choosing to get really, truly excited and peaceful about certain things that would ordinarily just make you happy. Joy is just like an overload of happiness. It's so empowering to realize you can somewhat craft the life where you experience greater amounts of joy. Also noticed a lot of themes in my relationships. Noticed who was often doing kind things for me, who I was often doing kind things for. If there were any discrepancies there, if I'm always doing kind things for this person and they're not often showing up in my kind things other people did for me. Who I often had moments of connection with, surprising people that I didn't have that many moments of connection with. And I got very clear on my values this past season of my life. And honestly, how a lot of times they differed from my core values from the beginning pages. The values that I was writing day after day after day after day kind of cycled between the same few. And they weren't the ones I thought were my core values. And it just kind of made me think, what matters more? The values that we say we value, the values based on like a mental exercise we do, or the values that day in, day out we choose to focus on. Like I said, the latter depends a lot on situations. It depends on what's going on in your life around that time. But maybe that's what really matters. Maybe it's not so much, I want to be remembered as a kind person, but rather day after day after day after day, I focused on rest and relaxation. That could be a core value for me. And I also reflected on the pattern that although up until recently I self-identified as an anxious person, my mood every day that I reflected was rarely ever anxious. So those are the reflections that I had after 90 days of doing this journaling practice. If you have tried it, I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Please leave a review on Amazon, and I'll leave a link in the description box if you want to purchase a copy if you haven't already. Take care. Bye.